What's good, y'all? This is your boy Tony Sway of TonySwayMusic.com, and this is my second podcast for R&B Talk. I'm new to this. I'm still learning the ins and outs of how to do a podcast, and I like to usually just be in my lab, just making beats. But I really love the genre of R&B, if you couldn't tell already. But I just kind of want to dive in this episode of my love for the 2000s era. My favorite era for me, obviously, if people haven't noticed, is the 90s, but I want to show some love today to the 2000s era and talk about some of my favorite music from them, for that time. The 2000s era had like a lot of dope music, and I want to kind of get into it, and I want to know your guys' thoughts and what you guys were feeling during that time. Who were your favorite artists? What were your favorite R&B albums of that time? I actually put together a playlist that you can go to right below this video. There's a Spotify link to a 2000s era R&B playlist, and yeah, so you're gonna find some of those vibes in there, mixed in with some of today's newer R&B artists as well. But the majority is gonna be the 2000s era. So some of my favorite music from that time, some of the people that you're gonna find on this playlist is Bobby V. His first album during that 2000s era, for me, was like classic. My favorite song off that album was One Girl to Love. Just an amazing R&B song produced by Tim and Bob. And it's just a really classic production. It like even has like the full-fledged bridge on there. And the falsettos and the harmonies, like the stacked harmonies and stuff, which a lot of people are not even doing that anymore. But yeah, just listen to that song. Go back, actually, just go to this playlist and check out that throwback record, One Girl to Love. That was my favorite song on that album. There actually was a lot more songs on that album that were dope as well, but that has to be my favorite from that album. Excuse me. So another standout artist from that time, the 2000s era, would definitely have to go to the homie Neo. Neo, more so was kind of R&B pop. He was kind of in between there, but you got to give the man credit, and he also wrote a lot of hit records for like Rihanna, Beyonce, Mario, Let Me Love You. Like, he wrote some big R&B pop songs from that era that he's probably still eating off today, because those are some really, really crazy records. They did crazy on the charts, and people still listen to those records today. But I got a little music from him on this playlist. One of my favorite songs from him was called Do You. Just like a classic, heartbreak type of joint. Still trying to get over somebody and you're still thinking about them. Just like a really classic R&B type record. So you can't go to the 2000s era without mentioning Jagged Edge. Jagged Edge, my favorite record from them actually was Good Luck Charm, and you're gonna find that record on this playlist as well. But they had so many classics, like especially that Heartbreak, J.E. Heartbreak was probably, most people would say that was their classic album. And I would have to agree, that one had like the most consistent amount of bangers. My favorite one from that album was Can't Handle a True Man. Y'all remember that? You can't handle a true man. Yeah, that was my ish back then, you know what I'm saying? It still is. I still love that record. So you're gonna get a little J.E. on this playlist, and let's see who else. Some other people that were really doing it for that time was also John B. Believe it or not, John B. was a late 90s artist, early 2000s, as far as he's still out there doing it right now, but where he was really reigning was that late 90s and early 2000s. So I got some of that early 2000s John B. On here. You're gonna get that record, Don't Talk. You remember that record? Don't talk, you just screaming. Take a sip, kinda got you feeling dizzy. Yeah, that was my ish, you know what I'm saying? So you're gonna find that record on this playlist as well. And yeah, there's just a lot of throwback. Got a little bit of Keisha Cole, but yeah, I don't want to give out too much of what's on the playlist. But I just want you guys to go listen if you mess with that era. But let's mention some other people from that time who are really doing it. Like Joe, he was really doing some crazy things during the 2000s era. My favorite record from him was actually a late 90s joint that The Things Your Man Won't Do, which was on the Don't Be a Menace soundtrack, which that was a crazy record. So that would be my favorite from him. But in the early 2000s is when that's when he really blew up with the My Name Is Joe album. That went double platinum. Those kind of numbers don't even exist for R&B anymore, let alone even hip hop. Rarely anybody except for people like Drake are even going platinum, which is, the Drakes and the Chris Browns and the Rihannas are the only people these days, as far as, the superstars that are still getting those kind of numbers. And a lot of those numbers are also coming from streaming in different ways they're calculating sales in different ways now as well. So it's very interesting. It's a new day and age, so we all have to get with the times. So yeah, but back then people were actually selling, they were selling 1 million, 2, 3 million, 4 million hard copies, of the CD and things like that, which was incredible. Joe was really doing it during that time. He was really doing big things. And he had a crazy reign during that era, so you can't think about the 2000s R&B era without mentioning Joe. Then you can't mention 2000s R&B without bringing up Ciara. Ciara to me was like she was carrying the torch that Aaliyah kind of left. You know what I mean? With everything that happened, God rest Aaliyah's soul. I mean, I love Aaliyah. I was so sad. Y'all know I'm a big Aaliyah fan. Like, I'm always making type beats. Her music really impacted me from her first album, second album, third album. And I mean, I even had the best of Aaliyah. She didn't make a lot of albums because her time was so short in this world, but the impact she had with the albums was so crazy, and just really left a solid impact on me and still influences me to this day. And I'm gonna have to save that for a 90s era playlist, but I felt like Ciara was kind of like, she was carrying that torch that Aaliyah was doing, with those really smooth vocals, not going too overboard, keeping that composure, and then, just really delivering over those hip hop type beats with the R&B chords and stuff like that, slowed down, and she also did her up tempo. So my favorite record from her, let's see what I got on this playlist. Let's see here. I believe we got Promise. That was my favorite record. I just wanted to make sure that's what I have on the playlist. Promise was an incredible R&B record, beautifully done, produced by Polo the Don. Polo the Don absolutely represented on that track. I mean, there were so many rip-offs of that track after it came out with those drums and everything. Producers, y'all know what I'm talking about. All kinds of people were ripping off those drums after that came out. But Promise is probably, I would have to say that's her best, arguably her best record, best R&B slow jam for sure. So and of course you can't mention 2000s era without bringing up Chris Brown and obviously like The Dream, people like that really represented, and obviously Chris Brown still, he's still relevant and he's still doing his thing. But the 2000s really gave birth to the 90s gave birth to the 2000s really, and really created this beautiful R&B that still had the elements of the old school, but was sonically just a little, was just developing sonically in a different direction just a little bit, but still with the old school principles of what the 90s did, which was bridging the R&B with the hip hop, which started with Teddy Riley, who's probably I would say Teddy Riley's my favorite producer of all time. And the 80s was strictly straight R&B, and then in the late 80s, you had like Al B. Shore, Bobby Brown, New Edition, and at the very late 80s, those guys, I mean Keith Sweat too, they really started that movement with Teddy Riley of bringing the R&B with the hip hop, and then that smoothly transitioned into the 90s, and it just literally reigned for that whole era, you know what I mean? All for that whole 10 years. And you know, and it gave birth to the 2000s era, which was really still doing that, but was just maybe developing sonically in slightly different directions, but still had those same principles. And then you got up to now, and a lot of people want to hate on today's R&B, but you know, for me making these playlists, you know, I'm discovering a lot of people out there who have those core principles in the R&B. You know, Sabrina Claudio would be one of those people. She's really in a lot of ways. It's like a modern day Sade. Songs are really incredible. Kiana Leddy, which is probably my favorite, really just has those core principles of a 90s R&B artist, but with today's swagger, you know what I mean? And you know, I mentioned that on my last video. So that was my second episode of R&B Talk. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Once again, this is your boy Tony Sway of TonySwayMusic.com. I hope you had fun reminiscing about that 2000s era R&B. I know y'all remember that 106 in Park. I know y'all remember these artists that I talked about on this episode. So go ahead and share your thoughts, share your comments about who your favorite artists and albums were or songs were from that 2000s, that early 2000s, mid 2000s era. And yeah, I appreciate y'all. This is your boy Tony Sway. This is your boy Tony Sway once again. You know what I'm saying? TonySwayMusic.com, and I'm out. Peace.